Exactly 1 year ago today, Robinhood halted trading in speculative stocks like GameStop and AMC, and some of those concerns still rippling through. And with the wild ride on Wall Street this week, our next guest says that retail traders have been buying Microsoft and Apple. Joining us right now with more details is J.J. Kinahan. He's chief market strategist at TD Ameritrade. And J.J., it's good to see you this morning.
Hey, thanks, Pat. Good to be with you.
Let's just talk a little bit about retail traders, because part of the reason there's so much pressure on Robinhood shares this morning is because the company said their average monthly users dropped pretty significantly, or their average daily users was down. Is that the trend that you've seen, too? Have retail investors pulled back, or is this a Robinhood-specific problem?
Well, if you look at the volumes that we're seeing overall in the market, Becky, and you referenced 1 year ago. As we know, 1 year ago, the markets were absolutely crazy in terms of volumes overall. We've settled into a little bit lower area, still well above those 2019 areas in terms of volume. But, to match the volumes last year at this time, I think for everybody has been a little bit difficult overall. That said, our clients are still staying pretty engaged, and it was really interesting to see as we talk about what's happened so far in January, and even though January's felt like it's been about 5 months long by itself so far this year, at the end of 2021, something really interesting happened to our clients, Becky. In December, they were net sellers of equities. We rarely see, retail traders tend to be buyers. So the fact is they were net sellers in the month of December, which maybe some of it for tax reasons because people had great years last year, if they rolled the market up. But to me, it showed that there was already some trepidation coming into the year overall. And, with that, when things do, as you mentioned in the intro, Microsoft and Apple, when things are in trouble, those are the two places people tend to turn overall. What was interesting is going into Apple earnings, we saw, overall people turning there right away. Microsoft, not quite as much as people normally do until the last few days where they really ran to that stock. So when people talk about buy the dip, by the way, those are the first two stocks that retail traders usually start with.
JJ, were they buying the dip before we heard from Microsoft, before we heard from Apple? Because they both came out with really strong earnings. Is this something that retail traders did ahead of that, or they waited until they saw the good numbers?
Apple, absolutely they were. Microsoft, there was a little bit more trepidation than I would normally have expected in downward movements. Whenever we see this downward movement, those two tend to get heavy activity. Apple, it was normal. As I said, Microsoft people had a little bit more trepidation this time. A lot of analysts were a little bit nervous going into that one also. So it wasn't until, Tuesday when our clients really started to buy that one a little bit more heavily.
So that's part of my question. Is this a situation where retail traders are now thinking, show me the money, let me see your earnings report before I'm willing to jump back in?
Yeah. I think overall, yes, a little bit more than normal. One other area that's been really interesting, you guys talk about Tesla obviously quite a bit, and it's really interesting for retail traders. And actually, the EV market continues to be pretty popular overall with our clients, with the Rivians of the world, et cetera, also. But one name that's really interesting to me also, Ford, was a buy every single month by our clients, and a heavy buy last year. December, they started to sell some of it, and that has continued. So even though in the EV, hopefully it's people taking nice profits, but in the EV space itself, we still see great interest. I think a lot of people played Ford synthetically, if you will, for EV exposure because in pure dollars, it was less money to do so. So it's interesting that one started to turn, which makes me, Tesla is one that obviously incredibly popular among our clients, and I really use that stock as a measure of confidence. As the people get more confident, they'll jump into that one. So yesterday afternoon, we started to see a few more, more of our clients going in there as it sold off. So I'm going to be very interested to see what happens to that one over the next week or so.